Good morning, friends, and welcome to the conversation with Raja Krishnamoorthy. Now, it's a very special session. We would be discussing on building a purposeful leadership, and specifically, concentrating on this, new normal and pandemic. So, let me introduce. Now, today our guest is a versatile and multidisciplined, highly talented professional having an industry experience of over 35 years. He's an author, activist, cartoonist, scriptwriter, director, accomplished actor, and has been supporting organizations and entrepreneurs as a leadership coach and as an OD expert for over 35 years. An alumni of Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management, started his career with ITC. He was associated with Enfield India, Polaris, Talent Maximus in various leadership capacities. Truly a multidisciplinary think talent. So let me welcome sir, Kitty sir, and we all know you as Kitty sir. So very thankful for obliging our request and being a part of this question. So now I would actually, request you to probably brief and introduce yourself a bit. Thank you.
Venkat, to begin with, thank you so much. Truly appreciate this wonderful opportunity that you've created. I hope the voice is coming through perfectly okay for you in terms
Yes,
of audibility.
Yes.
That's wonderful. So there are so many good things that you kind of talked about in terms of the introduction. I would simply say that I'm a connoisseur of life, or in Tamil, as we say, Varkai in Rasigar. Okay. So to me, everything about life is extremely fascinating, and that is the reason why I get drawn into so many aspects of life. It could be the philosophical aspect of life, it could be the creative aspect of life, it could be artistic aspect of life, it could be social concerns of life. I get drawn into that because I think all of them have that beautiful kind of a collage, to come and put together and make life so much fascinating. So that's the first part of it. I'm less logical and more romantic, let me tell you that. Okay, that's one part of it. And I'm less practical and more experimental, let me tell you that also. I mean, in the sense, that's what makes my life so much more interesting. Fundamentally, I would say that my perspective of life is what you may call as dharmic principle of life. What I call as the principle-centeredness, which is very much part of the the Eastern ethos or the Indian culture, the Anmiga Kannotam, as we call it in Tamil, and therefore that is the fundamental of all the work that I do. In fact, you may be surprised to know that even all the models that I've kind of worked on and which have evolved over the years have very strong roots on basically the philosophy of life as thought of by the Eastern world, very much.
Pretty interesting, sir, because now actually this forces me to ask you this first question, because
Sure.
One thing is you're into so much of talent, and you're into so many fields. Now we get to know from you that you're also into the spiritual aspect or the dharmic aspect of it, if I have to put it in the right sense, right? And you try to amalgamate or encapsulate everything into a specific funnel and say how to lead a successful, or I would not use the word successful, probably a peaceful and a joyful life, the sandosham we call it, right? So for the one question that I have, which is prominent, is how do you manage your life? Because it's very difficult for us to probably, manage ourselves considering our personal life and the professional life, be it a consultant or an employee or a lawyer or a doctor, whatever it is. It's just two hats. One is a personal hat as an individual. In my case, is probably as Venkat, and second is probably as an, wanting to become an HR professional hat. How do you handle? Because one, cartoonist, now that requires a lot of thinking. There is a lot of creative aspect with a lot of thought process that gets into direction. It's an ocean by itself. Script writing, acting, OD consultant. Now OD is such a subject, it we can have many books and many episodes and probably, huge yeah, volumes of books pertaining to that subject. How do you handle this and yet be so simple, crisp, clear, and so humble? How do you manage your life?
You know, very good question. In the first place, this divide that you talked about between personal life and professional life, to me personally, it's a very mythical kind of line. Okay.
Okay.
There is a core foundation, and that's a core foundation for all of us. And that core foundation, it crosses and it encompasses all identities.
Okay.
Okay. Beginning from the fundamental identities of being a male and female onwards, and then whatever your religion, your caste, your background, your language, your profession, your qualification, every identity. Okay. Now I have some kind of play of words that I do in my life. So if you really look at identity, it is the I getting dented, therefore it is an identity, which means you're not your full I. Okay. And then there is this core I, which is the common I for all of us, the core of our consciousness, core of our soulfulness, or the Atmiga truth, as we call it. Okay. So to me, therefore, manifestation of roles is incidental, but the foundation is so fundamental. Then comes the question of how do you make choices and things like that. The way I make choices is just allow the flow to take place and then see what emerges. One, I'm not too ambitious, so I don't over plan. I don't have numbers in front of me and say, by this, I need to kind of achieve this in terms of some very pressurizing kind of targets in front of me. I never had that in my life for the last 35 years, even as a consultant. I would say, what, this looks interesting and I'm going to get into this and see how it flows. And then it flows. And as it flows, the tributaries start. And I'll say, hey, this tributary looks very interesting. Let me just pursue it. So I become an explorer of life. And the interesting thing is, I don't hold back my exploration. Now, there are plus points and there are challenges. The challenges are, you're making a choice between going wider versus going deeper, as it looks like. But my learning has been, you can simultaneously do both going wider and going deeper, as long as what you are coming from is an amazingly core, strong foundation. Then I think it becomes very much possible.
Oh my God. Now, okay, now this raises one more question for me, because normally, we get to see that our goals or a thought process need to be pretty ambitious. That's how we've been taught, right? Even if we talk about this, goals or the dreams have to be ambitious and then strive towards achieving. Now, you said that you've been pretty successful in not having a pretty ambitious goal, but just going by the flow and exploring it. Is it something to do with the duality, and how do we actually take a passion and how do we work towards it, or is there a specific science to it? Is it an art? I would ask.
Yeah, it's a good question. In the sense, you used a word, and I don't know whether you used it consciously or whether it slipped out of your mouth, about duality. Okay. No, I think the fundamental duality that mankind is stuck with is the duality between the objective reality of life and the subjective reality of life. Objective reality is very simple. Anything which is, this is an objective reality, which means the material reality, Porul Sarndha Ulagam, as we call it in Tamil. And then there is the subjective reality, which is the Agam Sarndha Ulagam, or what you call as the other, kind of the reality, which is the more fundamental kind of reality. The world of objective reality, Venkat, is determined by three factors: time, quantity, and quality. Okay. And all these three are measurable and tangible. The human being over the last few centuries they have driven themselves so strongly onto this pathway of material objective reality that they are constantly governed by these three principles of time, quantity, and quality. Can I do it faster? Can I have it more? Can it be better than others? Okay. And the fact that therefore they are measurable, they are also subject to feelings of inadequacy and adequacy. And it so happens that for everyone, therefore, there's a lifetime and it is short. And within that, I've got to get it done. So there is an urgency already, put onto the head. The second one, somebody else is doing it faster than me. So this whole idea of competitive life is also infused. And teachers and parents and peers, everyone tells you, and especially organizations feed you with this idea. Life is competitive, have the aggressive kind of a quality. You got to have the killer instinct. Nobody tells you that life is collaborative. Nobody tells you that you must be having the caring instinct. I don't understand why. So this whole idea of being drawn and influenced by objective reality, I think that got dropped off about 30, 35 years back. And the moment that happened, I discovered that life is an immense potential and possibility. And then, the chasing stopped.
Fantastic, fantastic. Actually, you're so right, because even during my career stint, always we've been told, or rather, even I would have certainly mentioned to my, team members as well as my colleagues, how important is being ambitious and how should we actually be competitive and other things. It's an excellent point, and collaborativeness, and these days we are talking about it. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, sir. Now, there is one, TED talk of yours, still so many talks and so many speeches of that, but there is one TED talk where you had actually specifically mentioned, I need to actually check that wording. You said beliefs limit our perspective and lead to conformist behavior. Could I request you to elaborate on this? Because for us, belief is something, which is the basic foundation to build the core values, be it for the individual and for the organization, and which helps us in probably helping us out and reaching that ultimate goal or the purpose of life.
Right.
Could I request you to elaborate on that specific, this particular, sentence you used in one of your TED talks,
right?
And it was
pretty. It's also, it's all a strong foundation statement that I made. First I agree to what you were saying that, yeah, sure, beliefs anyway mold our kind of sense of purpose, therefore the kind of goal setting in our life, and therefore what we want to pursue, and therefore helps us to achieve. I'm saying the same belief is also the influencer of our thought process. The same belief is the foundation for, kind of how we want to define the meanings of our life. Now, the interesting thing is, all our beliefs come from our thought processes, okay? And if you really dive deeper and ask this question, where do the thought processes come from? You have some idea from where the thought processes come from? The thought processes always come from the past.
Past, that's right. Trend, yeah.
The first point for the thought process are the past. So J. Krishnamoorthy said, thought is death, because it comes from the past. In Tamil, for example, past is called as the Irandagalam, right, the dead period. So your product of your past is already a dead material that you're carrying. So how will you renew yourself? So the ability to know the relevance of your belief and the power of dropping your belief, this simultaneity makes a person amazingly dynamic. You know that you need belief system to survive, but you need to drop some of your belief systems to evolve. I think that simultaneity, that ability to know what to take on and what to give up, I think that duality is a very important part of life. So oftentimes what I quote to people is saying that let's learn from the very intelligent scientific mind of the guy who invented the automobile. In life generally you say that, when you bless somebody, you bless your son, you'll say, come up in life. If you bless him in Hindi, you'll say, Zindagi mein aage badho. If you bless him in Tamil, you'll say, Varkele munnukuva. You'll never tell him, Varkele pinnukupo. You'll never tell him, go back in life. You'll never tell him, piche jao. But that automobile guy, he put a reverse gear into his vehicle. You must think as to why did he do that ever? It's very clear that in life, for you to be evolving and progressing, your ability to stop, your ability to drop, and your ability to go back, all these are immense possibilities. Not just moving forward is a possibility. Sometimes stopping, dropping, going back, and reviewing, all of these are possibilities. And therefore I'm saying, learn to deal with your beliefs differently.
Excellent, excellent. Actually, this was a tremendous explanation, because when I was going through that particular video, I was like, it probably, questioning the, many frameworks and many definitions. But now I understand that it's the truth. It's not that you're questioning, you're actually making it more strengthening and you're actually giving it that life.
Yes.
இருந்தால் தான் பிறக்க முடியும் என்கிற அந்த ஒரு concept, I think
Yeah,
that has come out with
absolutely. Beautifully it said, no? Punarabhi Jananam, Punarabhi Maranam. You know, it's a Bhajagavadana is such a fantastic hymn. So it talks about your ability to be coming alive every moment and to be able to pass away the past and die every moment. Which means, can you give up whatever was the previous kanam, you know? Punarabhi, can you come again alive? And for you to come again alive, can you give up the past? I think that's a question. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Now, we know in the current situation, the last 2-3 months, one pandemic named Corona, it shook the entire basis of a lot of business model, a lot of mindset, and a lot of, I would say the foundation of confidence level of many people. Right now, what would you suggest? How should we actually be looking at, be it from the organization perspective as well as from individual perspective? How should they look at their future, be it in terms of business, career, their life, their future? How should they be looking at things, and what kind of enhancements do they have to practice to face the current situation, be confident, and be happy, rather be, glad and be positive and move forward in the life?
You know, it's a very powerful question and it has got multiple parts. So let me lay a foundation to this response. And the foundation comes from the previous question that we have addressed. I think the current corona situation shows us one of the biggest tragedies coming out of the human belief system of the last few hundred years, which is based on this objective reality and this belief that life is a deficit trip and therefore we need to be competitive and be absolutely cutthroat competitive with each other. So if you look at the three elements that we talked about in terms of time, quantity, and quality, quality always talks about being better than the other. And when this manifests into social phenomena, into political phenomena, into socio-political phenomena, and then into ideological phenomena, the manifestation of this better than you is the superpower syndrome. So what you see now, post the Industrial Revolution, and then what I call as the insurgency invasion revolution, and then the information technology revolution, to now the intelligence revolution. So in the intelligence revolution, being, kind of this whole idea of becoming a power and a superpower, being hooked on to that intelligence or whatever it is, has taken the world into what I call as an unimaginable level of intensity of wanting to score over the other, in some way or whatever. Now, this is the suffering of the objective reality. You just can't escape that. Because your belief is life is competitive, that you have things in shortage, you got to have more and more and more. Nobody pauses and says, do I really need this? So if there are countries, you got to conquer more. If you're, kind of business, then you got to, capture the market more and so on and so on. Why I'm talking about that? So when this intensity goes into this kind of a level, in this objective reality, the whole world and human beings are objectified, which means human beings become utilities. They are numbers. They are not humans anymore. The same challenge can come into organization. If you lose the perspective and not really understand that there is very much important for you to hold the simultaneity of objective and subjective reality together, you can completely land up convert resources. You may call them whatever fancy labels, but nothing more than utilities. So for example, what you see about the migrant labor problem, the contract labor problem, is exactly one of the beautiful indicators of utilities. They were required comfortably at a point of time. They were left there unattended the moment that was, kind of under challenge. So it's a kind of plug and play. All right. So if that is so, is there something for us to learn? I think, first of all, living philosophy-wise, the world has got to learn. And I would say, therefore, embracing of the subjective reality, which is the human reality, the sensitivity, into its whole scientific, objective, materialistic reality, and actually striking what I call balance, but an integration of these two is very much required. Number one, at a socio-political level, because it's crazy. We say that we are a very, man is working towards conquering nature and all kinds of statements we make, which means we are at terrific states of development and all that. And in this history of the last 100 years, forget it. 50 years, forget it. Last 30 years. What is 3 months in 30 years? 13 to 12, 360 months. 3 months out of that is less than 1%. You mean this world cannot take a shock of 1% or less than 1% of its time in a 30-year kind of a span? That means something is terribly fragile and wrong with the world. If that be so, I'm saying it's time for us to re-examine the beliefs. And I believe that just like the famous 5S system of the Japanese, I talk about a new 5S system, which is required for all of us as leaders, as managers, as individuals. And this is an interesting 5S that I talk about. Can we have more of this 5 is the question. The first one is greater sensitivity as human beings, fundamentally. And you will have sensitivity in a very simple way when you see yourself in the other person. You call it empathy, whatever. But very simply, when I can see myself in you, I'm more sensitive. Because I would grant you whatever I'm granting to myself. So the first one is greater sensitivity. The second one is what I call as social accountability. Forget personal accountability. You know, this Eastern philosophy says, Aham Brahmasmi. I'm saying Aham society. Recognize that you are society. There is no society outside you. So whatever little thing, whether it is social distancing, whether it's taking care of your street, whether it is you taking care of the dustbin outside, whether it is taking care of whether the opposite side person is following the rules or not, and then calling him and drawing his attention, social accountability has to become so much more. We are partners in guiding, managing, and facilitating the society. So second one is social accountability. The third one is share and care more, and if required, sacrifice more. I think this ability to offer and to become an offerer rather than a taker is very much important. I think we had enough of getting and forgetting. I think we need to have giving and forgiving a lot more. I think sharing, caring, and sacrificing as an element. Sacrificing comes in when you're willing to give something valued by you for something lesser that you're getting. That mindset, that large-heartedness need to come in from the deficit mentality. Most important, simplicity. Sada Jivan Ucha Vichar. More of less. You know, there's a beautiful quotation from Mandino, the motivational writer. He says, your poverty is not determined by what you do not have. I'm repeating that. Your poverty is not determined by what you do not have, but your richness is determined by what you can live without. Amazing statement. Amazing statement. Simplicity. And finally, all this is based on one single factor, self-awareness as against identity awareness. Self-awareness as against role awareness. Self-awareness as against ego awareness. I think this is very, very fundamental. These 5S are very important. Sensitivity, social accountability, share, care, and sacrifice attitude, simplicity, and self-awareness. I think these are very important things that we need to add on a lot more to ourselves. Be as leaders, be as individuals, be as social systems to make life better.
Excellent, sir. No words to describe this, but specifically on the sacrifice thing, sharing, and giving, and forgiving. I think it's a very powerful statement. I think we have to really understand it in spirit and start practicing it.
I'll ask you a simple question. Venkat, I'll ask you a simple question.
Sure, sir.
Honestly, between you and your wife, and I'm just taking it as a, have you actually done a calculation of how much will you spend every day at home for 3 times of good food? I assume that you're a vegetarian food eater. Okay. Have you done a calculation as to how much does it cost in a day to have 1 day's all the food that you require 3 times and with, let's say, 2 coffees and teas? Have you ever done a calculation?
I don't think I have done it. I'm sure she would have done it. We have never discussed it. Probably it's my mistake. All that I would say is probably she would come and ask me, what do you like to have? And I would probably tell her that this is what I want.
I encourage you do that. You'll be shocked. I will tell you the figure.
Sure.
At 500 rupees, you live a very, very luxurious life.
This probably I would agree because I was staying in Chennai for 2 years and I used to cook for myself. So 2 years. So I know I was, my expenses, monthly expenses was not much unless, I consider the other luxuries or other things that I want to
Exactly.
ask. But
So, yeah.
otherwise,
So the point I'm saying, therefore, when we talk about simplicity, all that I'm saying is this clarity that how much I drive my life based on need based and then want based, and then what I call as this comfort based. If that clarity exists and you are, first of all, addressing the need part of it and putting it into place, Venkat, you'll play such a beautiful game of life. Most of the time, the human mind has become so idiotic. Hey, I've got 20 shirts, man. Why do you require 20 shirts?
yeah.
Hey, fabulous discount in Amazon. Do you buy because Amazon gives discount or because you need to wear something? Now, we're gone off the rocker. All that I'm saying is simplicity and sharing need to become virtues that we integrate with ourselves a lot more. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. It's tremendous. No, actually, these five verses that you have mentioned, it forces me to ask you a specific another question. Meaning, we have so many leadership models. We have so many leadership frameworks. We talk about transformational leadership, situational leadership, and we have five levels of different leadership. There are many models. But all of these models could not help or address the current pandemic or the business models and the way people or the leaders have actually approached the entire framework.
Right.
Do you think it's a time that we need to relook into our models and come out with a new model, or these five S's or any specific dimensions would help in facing such things in the future and be ready? Now, one is risk taking. So we have to stop, think, review it. Now, is this that time where we need to probably relook at entire leadership and what things should we consider in building a purposeful leadership?
I love this question, purposeful leadership. First, I'd like to compliment you because right in the beginning, as this conversation started, there was a point where you used the word success and then you became cautious and said, may not be success the right word. I love that caution, number one. So that's one about, what does a leader really do? A leadership can be success oriented, a leadership can be growth oriented, and a leadership can be evolution oriented. Then we need to know the difference between these three. Leadership focused on success is transactional and at best above transactional. So I make effort and I need to have a result. And if the effort fulfills, the kind of expectation I have, I'm successful. Excellent. So that's transactional and, kind of situational. Growth, again, can be unidimensional. Growth can be, therefore, in the objective world, I'm achieving numbers. In the evaluative criteria, I'm doing very well. Compared to the previous years, I'm doing better now. Therefore, I'm growing. I think the third dimension is very important, which is evolutionary. Now, evolutionary is when I'm not only going better in terms of numbers, I'm also shifting orbits and going to a different level of looking at things. I think this orbit shift is very important. And the orbit shift makes you, let's say, from a team player into a functional player, from a functional player into an organizational player, from an organizational player into a sectoral player, from a sectoral player to an industry player, from an industry player into a social system player, from a social system player into a global outlook player. That is evolution. And not just the leader, he needs to bring this perspective to his followers too. Look at Aziz Premji, he's an evolutionary leader. Look at Ratan Tata or JRD for that matter, evolutionary leaders. I mean, to them, yes, industries, businesses, their successes were there. But then says, what difference does this bring to the society? I think awesome kind of evolutionary leadership. And then I think this evolutionary concept needs to be understood. And therefore, encouraging both your own mind and the mind of your, kind of followers. I think that is the biggest job of the leaders. Therefore, leader, the first and foremost definition of leader that I would talk about is the one who shows the way. In Tamil, the best meaning for the word leader is Vadigati, the one who shows the pathway. All right, so this evolutionary pathway, sure, I think to me, that is the leader. So how does he do that? Now comes the important question, in terms of various models and all that. Yeah, you're right. There are very many intellectual models. But there is one model, not even model, a concept that I believe in. And I think, you asked a question about belief earlier. It's not belief, it's so much such a foundational reality of existence. And that I use this word called, very consciously a trans, and I'm saying form. If you want to really understand transformational leadership, the ability to go beyond the form is the most important thing. Unless, transatlantic, going beyond the Atlantic, transport, going beyond one port, transform, going beyond the current form. So it says, can you go beyond the objective reality? All right. So this transformation leadership model, and at some point of time, I would like to dive deeper on that with you, is based on 4 anchors. And the 4 anchors are, number 1, proactivity. Number 2, sensitivity. Number 3, principle-centeredness. And number 4, surplus mentality.
Okay.
Okay. And this model, therefore, works based on these 4 foundations. And as a result of that, high on proactivity and high on sensitivity creates a transformational leader and the institution builder. High on surplus mentality, high on principle centeredness creates the investor and the creator of possibilities. All right. So it's a very interesting kind of model. I think we need to have transformational leadership model of a very significant dynamic nature, where it is really multidimensional. It cannot be unilaterally evaluation oriented, objective oriented kind of, then it becomes unidimensional.
Right.
It becomes what is the difference between evaluation and something else? Very simple. You can either be evaluating or you could be engaging, period. That's it.
Fantastic.
Engagement calls for dropping evaluation. You engage because you believe something is very important. Engagement is that you commit to the welfare relationship. Typically, when we get engagement before a marriage, it means what we are talking about is now you're committed to each other without a barrier. When you engage a gear in a car or a vehicle, which means you're putting into a slot where it is getting now hooked onto, it cannot be separated. Engagement is the willingness to completely integrate with the other. And therefore, I'm saying the human engagement needs to match the human evaluation trip that we have related to the objective reality. And that I'm saying, these leaders, evolutionary leaders, so transformational leaders with that evolutionary perspective are the leaders required for us at all the levels. You will find them at shop floor supervisory level, I can tell you, Venkat. And you will miss them at managing directors level.
Fantastic, fantastic. It's actually, it looks so simple, but it has so much of depth in it and so much of meaning in it. I think this transform, the definition that you explained itself will be a volume by itself.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. Great. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And what would be your suggestion? Now we are looking at, this is the time where we have the millennials coming up in the corporate ladder, and they're getting into the entrepreneurship. They're getting into the leadership positions. And eventually we would actually be noticing the percentage would gradually increase and they're going to dominate it. So for them, they are so habituated in the digital and the technology world. So what would your suggestion and advice be for them to enhance their competencies and build into a transformational, leadership role, considering these 5 C's as well as the 4 S that you have currently mentioned?
This is interesting. When you define them, they are so much digital people, which is wonderful. But understand the concept of digital. What does it mean? Okay. And it's very beautiful to know that when it's digital, it's essentially, number 1, easy to manage, and it is predominantly visual. Okay. Visual and of course audible and computer intelligence systems and all that. It also means that you are constantly preoccupied with what you see, okay? And you're constantly engaging, therefore, be it your mobile and therefore the WhatsApp in that, whether it's a Facebook in that, whether it's whatever kind of thing, you are caught up with that. Now the point is that therefore your tendency to be looking outside has multiplied hundreds of times compared to the past decades. And your opportunity to look inside has significantly decreased. So I would say become less digital in the first place. Or match your digital pursuit, which very diligently looking inside kind of pursuit. That's very important. First and foremost. All right. Second one, I'm saying add collaboration attitude to the competitive attitude. I'm not saying take away competitive attitude. Become more competent from a competitive. The word competition comes from competency.
Right.
So earlier, all your games were amateur games. Why? Because competency, to show how competent you were, became competitions. All right. Now here competition becomes, can I destroy somebody so that I can live, kind of thing. We don't have to be there at all. Build your competence. All right. And having built your competence, there are some awesome things that you can do. And the first thing that you need to ask is, what am I going to do with this competency? And I therefore go back to that fundamental question. You are very clear about your aim and ambition, but what's your offering to the world?
Right. Right. I can never forget that.
Okay. So I think that's an interesting thing. So you want to become somebody, you want to get that job, you want to get that salary, you want to get that position. Fantastic. Can you start saying, what are you going to be offering? So start examining what you can offer. And this is where something interesting comes. And you can start becoming an offerer by becoming a practicing offerer. And I would even strongly recommend to people at whatever age they are, identify 3 things that you can do to somebody out there, next door, in your society, in your street, in your organization. And just for the sake of adding value, go and tell them, can you do this for me? Become an offering person. This is very important. The second important thing is a beautiful quote from Bharatiyar, which I would encourage every youngster to know. It does not matter what you choose to do. All that matters is how deeply, convincingly, and devotedly you will do that. Is it okay if I quote something in Tamil? Is that all right?
Yeah, please, sir. Yeah. I'll probably add English translation.
Yeah, I will add English translation. So Bharatiyar says, Vayagam Kapavarenam. You could be the savior of the world. Alladu siru vazhapazha kadai vaithirupavarenam. Or you could be a small vendor of bananas and a small basket, going on the street and shouting your throat out. Vayagam Kapavarenam, siru vazhapazha kadai vaithirupavarenam. You could be either of this. It doesn't matter. Poyyagala tholil seide. You should be a person of highest integrity. No falsehood ever in what you do and what you offer. Poyyagala tholil seide. Pirar potra vazhvor. And when you are such an integrated person, integrity-oriented person, the whole world looks at you, smiles and says, Poyyagala tholil seide. Pirar potra vazhvor. Yenganamum mero. The world says, this man is the greatest man. So drop this idea of what is it that I should do, which will be recognized. Anything that you do will be recognized, provided you do it with, and there is something that I talk about. You do that, number one, with dedication, with devotion, with absolute discipline and determination. These 4 Ds I call about. If you're sweeping, if I'm the housekeeper of your house, and if I'm sweeping 2 small rooms, as long as I believe that, look, the way I sweep your floors, nobody else in the world can do that. And that is my pride and joy. Believe me, I'm somewhere. So I'm saying to the youngsters, drop your idea as to whether you're doing whatever is in the trend or whatever is in the fashion or whatever is in the asking. Do what you enjoy doing, do what you're very good at doing, and go and make an offering of what you're doing to somebody who needs that. Go and say, can I do this for you? And sheer offering and practice will make you into a craftsman, into an expert. Start offering for the sake of offering, I would say.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Now, what we'll do is I would actually check with Ajiba as my colleague. I'll actually ask her to log in.
Okay.
We might have a couple of questions through the YouTube. I'll ask her to probably take 2 questions for you.
Sure.
Meanwhile, before she actually joins, I want to talk about, specifically ask you about this book, Rajani Panchtantra. I remember we spoke about it in our previous call, and I read through the book. That is, till the time I got the book and I read through it, I never could, imagine the punch dialogues can actually be, explained so beautifully for both as for an individual as well as for an organization.
Right.
Now, how did you get that thought process? How did you get that thought process? Because that again gives a very, out of the box, I'll probably use a jargon, the out of the box or your multidimensional thought process is that?
Okay. So first I'll give the credit to that initiative to PC Bala, because he was the originator of the idea. Bala is a huge devotee of Rajnikant, not just fan.
Okay.
I would say I'm not that kind of a devotee or a fan of Rajnikant. I worked with him in 5 films. He's a terrific human being. I just love that personality and that individual human being. We have great relationship. We are in constant touch, and we have tremendous respect for each other. And I have humongous kind of admiration for him. But Bala is a hardcore Rajini fan, which means not one film of Rajini he would have missed in his life.
Wow.
And I would have in my life not seen more than 5 films of Rajini. So that's different. But Bala being what he was, therefore he was collecting the punch dialogues. Mm-hmm. And then he was kind of making small scribblings and notes out of those punch dialogues. And as a consultant and as I had an interaction with Bala, and then that became friendship. And during the course of our friendship, Bala talked about this particular idea that he has, and which he said, sometimes I think that Talavar's dialogues are, good management kind of statements. And sometimes he used to share that through email with some of the friends. Then it struck his mind, saying that can we compile this together? So he was compiling, and then he one day called me up and said, hey, Raja, what do you think? We can put all this together, and if you can add your perspective of values in life, we can take it to a different level. When that thought came, we discussed, and then it struck my mind that why not go to a full-fledged effort of making that into a book? Because we could partner, and Bala could look at it from the business perspective angles, and I could look at it from life values angle. And then the combination of Tamil and English can also come in. So we started, and I think the core work of that book we finished in about a month's time. And then we took it to Rajni sir and said, here is something that we would like you to see and approve. He was taken aback. He said, wow, I thought, we made those dialogues. We knew that they were critical or, punch dialogues, but what you people have done is awesome, absolutely. So that was the whole idea. And honestly, there is that part of Rajni sir, which is a significant part, which is very deeply, if I can use the term spiritual, very deeply human. And therefore, even in his personal life, he operates, he lives, and he kind of influences from very strong values. So for us, therefore, to make it into this kind of a book was an easier job. I think the original dialogue writers of the film, I think they did a terrific job.
Okay. Fantastic. Just one moment, sir. I think I've got the question, so let me go through it. A technical, whatever snag or something, Ajiba is not able to join.
Yeah.
Raghunath Kashyap, he mentions, Raja sir, very excellent analogy on identity, ident, and a fantastic explanation and belief system of letting go the past to evolve. What is the first thing I can do now to let go of my past?
Let go. That's first of all, Kashyap. What's his first name?
Raghunath Kashyap.
Raghu, lovely, beautiful question. I love the basis of your question. What happens, for us is we don't let go because we think that my current comfort and future comfort is dependent on what I'm holding on to. I'm not saying throw away your past or throw away your beliefs because they have added value to you. Respect them, keep them. Can you add on something more? I think that's an important question. But by any chance, if your beliefs are limiting you, then ask this very important question. Do I need to hold you like this, or can I give you a gift of separation? Ask very respectfully. Because some of these things we are cherished in our life. So when you recognize that they are inhibiting factors, respectfully ask them, can I give you a gift of separation? Because even that separation needs to be done with a lot of grace, okay? Because sometimes it could be relationships, sometimes it could be conversations, sometimes it could be kind of promises that you made, whatever. Okay, so there needs to be a lot of dignity in that. And re-examine these 4 questions. What 4 questions? What will others think of me? Will it affect my future? Will I hurt others' feelings? Will I definitely succeed? Stop asking these questions.
Okay.
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 I'm not saying become ruthless, but I'm saying many times these are dysfunctional questions. Good chances are nobody's thinking about you, but you're imagining that others are thinking about you. We have a great capacity to convert the word future into anxiety. Drop that. When somebody says that I'm very hurt, what he's saying is I'm experiencing pain. A lot of times you don't need to pick up the guilt. They experience pain because they have to now come out of their confinement boundaries, and that is painful. So re-examine that guilt feeling that you pick up. You say that I recognize your pain, but I don't need to own up the guilt. There's a difference between these two. And finally, will I definitely succeed? Don't ask for guarantee cards in life. You're not an iPhone or a Godrej refrigerator to come with a guarantee card or a warranty card when you are born. We are humans, evolutionary. We don't need a guarantee card. We have to just strive, endeavor, and learn that losses always appear in any balance sheet of any company in the world on the asset side, not on the liability side.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. And yeah, I would request you to give, I would like to actually have the session for 1 more hour, but considering the time that we have committed, I think Ajiba has joined. So we will probably take one question from Ajiba.
Sure. Is Ajiba online?
Yes, just come. Ajiba, go ahead. You're online and switch on your video.
Venkat, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but we're not able to see you. So
Ajiba, I have to see you. What is this? Such a beautiful name you have, and I can't see you.
1 second. Okay. Okay, right. Yeah. Okay. So 1 second, sir. I'll just switch on the video. Meanwhile, I'll ask my...
Yeah, you can ask your question.
Okay, I think there is a problem with my video, so I think, I'll not be able to, switch on my video. Shall I go ahead with the question?
yes,
Well,
yes,
the
Ajiba, go
question,
ahead.
then I have a question after you ask your question. Okay, after I answer your question. All right?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, see, I did not get any question from audience, so I'll go ahead with the one that I have.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Sir, my question is, multidimensional perspective. Do you really think it is basically a purposeful condition of purposeful conditioning of mindset, in fact, or is it a skill?
Um, you know, this factor called mind, I think let's understand that. Mind is material, except that it is subtle material. And it's not a part of the body like a brain or a heart or a lung. Okay. So what is it really? It is that basket. It is that invisible basket, which is a collection of ideas and thoughts and feelings predominantly experienced through our life. Okay? And it's a very dynamic kind of a basket, because sometimes what is there in the basket is organized by us, recognized by us. Sometimes we forget it. So there are various stages in which the mind kind of operates. So they talk about the different stages: mano, buddhi, ahankara, or chinta. All these are descriptions of the mind. But the interesting thing is, as long as it is part of the mind, it is possible to influence that. Okay. It does not matter from where one has picked up, let's say, an idea or a belief. The possibility of re-examining is very much there. Can mind be trained? Yes, that is the skill that we can develop. Because that invisible magical basket that we are talking about as the mind, more often than not is, it's like in engineering, they use the term transformer. I'm not an engineer. And there is a scale-up transformer and a scale-down transformer. So mind is an interesting thing. It has the basic conscious energy, live energy coming in. And then it is attached to the 5 instruments of the eyes, the nose, the ears, the mouth, and the body, the touch feeling. But it is predominantly connected to the 5 instruments. So it's constantly running outside and running outside and running outside. So if you train your mind, or if you deal with your mind and make it look inwards, then it starts looking into the core, which is unlimited supply of energy that it has. So imagine mind as the center point. On this side, on the left-hand side, the connection to the 5 machineries constantly running behind those machineries. On the right side, imagine that connected to one single point, which is your core life energy and consciousness. So when we say you become more conscious, what we are saying is, hold on to what your drive and your tendency of running outside, look back consciously within and ask deeper questions. Do things really matter? Are the things that I'm putting into such a high pedestal as significant? Do they make such a difference? Can I go beyond these limitations? And as you start becoming more conscious, you start relating to the immensity of the inputs, which is the life source, life energy itself. And the moment you start picking up this immensity, you recognize that anything that is attached to these internal machineries on the step-up transformer, that can be dealt with. So it is a skill that you can build to manage the mind. I think mind management is the most important thing that we need to learn if you want to really make a significant breakthrough in life and see immensities of a very different kind. If you want to do orbit shifts. Ajiba, am I making sense?
You're unmuted.
Yes, sure, sir, sure, yes.
Now I can see you. I'm so happy. Hey,
Thank you very
let me
much.
ask you a question.
Yeah.
Ajiba, such a rare person. Ajiba is such a beautiful name. Who named you Ajiba?
My father named it.
Please congratulate him for choosing such an awesome name. Such a rare, wonderful, and such a dignified name.
He's not there with us right now, but then I'll surely convey this to my mother. She is going to be really, really happy.
Wonderful. So happy. So, did that make sense what I talked about this transformer and its connection?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, definitely, yes.
The interesting thing, let me, this is also a point where I think I would cross a boundary. Ajiva, there's an interesting phenomena. Therefore, when I was talking to Venkat, I talked about, therefore going into the subjective reality. And the subjective reality is something that we call in the Eastern philosophy as the Atmic reality. And I don't know about you, and now that I saw you, the Atmic reality is nothing very different from the same thing that we read in all the faiths, including in Quran, where he says that the whole creation is an outcome of that one fundamental soulfulness. From that one Atma, the whole creation has come in. We are connecting to that core energy, precisely. Becoming that God-centered or that conscious-centered when we talk about, it is the same thing that we are talking about. And I think it's awesome. That's why, Venkat asked that question about the duality. Duality is a principle that is talked about in every faith. In Tamil, in our, kind of culture, they talk about duality of Immai, Marumai, okay? This world and the other world. In Quran, they talk about this world and the other world. In Christianity, they talk about the world of the God's kingdom and this world. Every faith beautifully talks about it. You know what they are really talking about it? They're talking about that immense goodness that lives within every one of us. And we call it consciousness, period. That's it. And all that I'm saying is, when I'm drawn outside with these 5 instruments of connecting to the world, I'm driven mad because that is beyond my control. And it's innumerable, multi-crores. But what I have inside is that one source, which is universal, which is absolute bliss, which is the creator of all potential and possibilities. So the more I connect to the potential and possibility, I become somebody very different. As simple as that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you.
Ajiba.
Yeah, thank you very much, Venkat and Kitty sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. It was certainly a fantastic session. A lot of learning, in fact, a lot of deep insights. We need to really think a lot about the specific concepts that you've mentioned. I think it requires not just good amount of reading and understanding, but I think we need to deep dive and understand the purpose of life, right? And more than the goal and everything, the purpose of life. Sid, I would like to actually listen from you about the what do you think would be the steps ahead? What kind of competencies needs to be built, and how should people condition their mind, considering the current reality as well as the beautiful concepts that you have mentioned at the moment?
I don't know if there's a oversimplified answer that I can give. I'm saying it's a beautiful opportunity to pause and reflect. So I would say, please reflect a lot more deeply. Okay. And first of all, ask this question: am I operating from a deficit mind or from a surplus mind? Okay. Am I converting the word future into anxiety? Okay. And losing balance? Am I believing that life is competitive and therefore going crazy saying, because the moment I say life is competitive, then my destiny is dependent on others. But the moment I say life is collaborative, then my destiny is dependent on what I'm willing to offer. So I think these are two different clarities. And I would then say, all right, start doing more of less. Pick up simpler things, but dive deeply and create a high value. Become a value offerer.
Okay.
Look at opportunities to become a value offerer. Don't talk about doing a job. Job is a process that you engage in. But the real thing is, what is the value that you create as a result of that? How does it make somebody, kind of better? Truly understand this value creation in every small little ways. I would say, to me, value creation is something that the Japanese have mastered. Okay, so every little thing, from a serving of a tea to keeping of a place to a small little gadget to be kind of made, it takes so much of qualitative attention. Offering becomes amazing. So become that kind of an offerer. And then I would say offer for the joy of it, first of all. Offer because the world requires it and you have the capability. And therefore offer from a very, very surplus point of view. Okay? And let this become part of your belief and communication too. That life is surplus. In spite of all that can be materially less, one can still be more. One can still be more. All right, so get these qualities into that and look around for opportunities to connect to people to create value for them. I think that's the important thing. Like I said, what you do is not very critical, but how you do, becoming an offerer, becoming a value creator, becoming a surplus-minded person, and even in apparently deficit kind of situation, being able to ask this question, what can I do? So I want to make a beginning with you, Venkat. Therefore, I want to say, you're right, saying that, we have had this 1 hour talk. What do we do? So for the next 3 months, every month, we'll have a 1.5 hour session of conversations, okay? You can define it in any way that you want. It could be your own, what you may call as a conversation and mentoring process, and you and Ajiba can come in. Or you want to connect some more friends to that, you're okay. For the next 3 months, I'm saying we will do this every month, okay?
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks
So
a
let
lot.
me show you how to become an offerer, as simple as that. Okay, I have that possibility. What is stopping me from offering you? I see two very live and very keen and very eager and very committed kind of people. Do I require anything else to make an offering? I'm saying this is what I call as the offering mindset, period.
I don't know what to say. Too humbled, and its thought process is now I'm in ninth cloud. I think we could, probably every one of us, we could actually feel the tangible meaning of giving, and forgiving, exact meaning of it. Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you so very much. I would certainly, I would never lose this opportunity for sure. And I would ensure that this is not going to be 3 months. Obviously, it's going to be continuous.
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a
Thank you.
lot for your time, sir. I
Thank
know
you
we
so
planned
much.
it for half an hour, 40 minutes. It's 1 hour.
I'm an absolute joy, and I enjoyed it completely. And thank you so much. And thank your team also, Ajiba especially, for bringing that important kind of question. And we'll stay connected. We've got a
Absolutely.
beautiful exploratory journey to go on, and we'll stay connected and do that. All the best.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks a lot.